Delta Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, I am so impressed and I'm in awe in this very awesome presentation by Mr. Bawa, the chairman of EFCC to be. Mr. President, ordinarily, there would have been no need to ask this young man any question. Mr. President, I've been here, this will be my 6th year in the Senate, and I've seen so many nominees come before us. Mr. President, I have not seen any as eloquent in his presentation. Ordinarily, I would have said, take a bow and go. But Mr. President, clearly he's a very, very brilliant young man. Within a couple of minutes, he's been able to showcase himself. I will plead with my colleagues who share in my belief that ordinarily should take a bow and go. But I think they should be given a chance, Mr. President, for him to further showcase himself. He is a good product. That is why I like to begin, Mr. President, by thanking Mr. President and Commander-in-Chief President Muhammadu Buhari for this nomination. This nomination is unique and it's an aspirational nomination. It's a nomination that has generated hope for millions of our youth in this country. Mr. President, not too long ago, we all recall the incident, what transpired at the Lekki toll gate. Clearly, the youth at that toll gate needed an opportunity to express themselves. Mr. President, with this nomination, the youth of this country can now sit in offices and make those very crucial and fundamental decisions on how Nigeria should be governed. And there cannot be a better platform than the office of the chairman of EFCC. So I want to thank Mr. President for finding this young man worthy. In fact, going through his CV, Mr. President, I was impressed. But in hearing him speak to that CV, Mr. President, so I thank President Muhammadu Buhari for this nomination. For that reason, and for the second reason, Mr. President, this is the first time we are sticking within the local EFCC environment to pick one of their own, one of their pioneer cadets to govern this institution. And it's a great thing. That was always the intendment behind the establishment of that EFCC Act. That yes, at the commencement, there will be borrowings from other security agencies until such time that we're able to groom people who will take over. President Muhammadu Buhari has determined, and we all agree with him, that this is the time and this is the young man. We are very proud of you.
Thank you very much.
The members of the House of Reps who are here, they have every reason to be also proud of your achievements. So too is the Speaker and the members of the Kebbi State House of Assembly who are also here, and members of his family. You have every reason to be proud of this young man, just the way we are. I will support this nomination. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
And I don't want to repeat what he has already said. For me, all I will say at this point to my own distinguished colleagues is to beat my chest and say that this is what we from Kebbi State can produce. And that once we get the chance, we will be able to bring the best into the table for Nigerians to appreciate, so that our contributions to the development of this country will be well appreciated. But having said that, Mr. President, it is important, like you said, for us to ask certain questions, if for nothing, but only to draw the attention of the young man to the pitfalls that we have experienced over the years in this institution. I was a director and special assistant to the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Ekaite, when the bill establishing the EFCC was brought. And we noticed part of the bill, the reason why certain issues came to be as they were. I'm happy that this is the first time those who were recruited in 2003 have now come of age, and we are returning the EFCC back to its base. Now, the experiences of the past are a lot that all of us have to learn from. None of the chairmen of the EFCC, from New Ribadu down to Magu, successfully concluded their tenure without controversy. Therefore, you as a young man, I want to challenge you and ask you, how are you going to set up your operations as chairman of EFCC, knowing where you are, knowing the colleagues with whom you have started, and knowing those who are senior to you, but who maybe belong to another institution, who are now there? How are you going to work and set up the institution so that it works for Nigeria and that the controversies of the past are not repeated? Thank you very much.
Sorry about the mix-up. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues. Delegation from Kebbi State that came to witness the screening and confirmation of Abdulrasheed Bawa as chairman of the EFCC. Mr. Chairman, let me start by saying that Abdulrasheed Bawa is from my constituency. And we live very close to each other. I know him to be very thorough, meticulous, and very diligent in the performance of his duty. I agree with you that we should allow the senators to ask as many questions as possible, because we really have a very good product, a product that we can sell anywhere. And Nigerians will be very happy, will be very delighted to hear from him how he intends to restructure the EFCC so that it can perform optimally. Mr. President, since we are limited to only one question, the only question I will ask is that there is allegation in the press and particularly in the social media that the seized and forfeited assets at Port Harcourt were not properly disposed of. And I want your response on this so that the Senate, Nigerians, and indeed the international community will know truly what happened. Mr. President, as I said earlier, we have a good product. We want him to tell Nigerians how he intends to restructure the EFCC, and we really want him to answer as many questions as possible. We don't want that situation where we will tell the nominee, take a bow and go. No. This one is a nomination like no other. So he is competent, he is the right person for this job, and perhaps being a pioneer staff of EFCC, he will do a lot for this country. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Chairman and my colleagues, permit me to quote Sultan Bello in his book Al-Guide, specifically page 59. And I quote, "The most abhorred and remote from God is a tyrannical ruler. Whosoever commits oppression is caused by Allah, and giving authority to those unfit for it is oppression." Unquote. My colleagues, we've been in this chamber with some of you in the last 5 years, some of you in the last 1.5 years as senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We have had the privilege of seeing nominees present themselves here for the office for which they were being nominated. I can stand here and proudly say that Abdulrasheed Bawa has clearly demonstrated that he has the capacity and the knowledge to run the office of the Economic and Financial Crime Commission as chairman. What that means is that the nomination by Mr. President has clearly passed the test that Sultan Bello referred to in his book, Al-Guide. I know him very well, and I'm not surprised. Whoever knows his father knows that Abdulrasheed is not even half of what his father has done to us in KB and done to this country. And I know the moral standing from which he is coming. And I know that he will perfectly situate himself to understand the building of the reputation that his family has built and to insulate himself from use and misuse by political people. I therefore call on my colleagues to approve his nomination, and in addition to his pledge that he will prove to Nigerians that youth can do it, so that you give him opportunity for Mr. President to look for more competent people to appoint for the purpose of running affairs of this country. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Competent and is very professional. But that is as an investigator. You know what a man can do when you give him power or money. You're not going to be chairman, and indeed an executive chairman of EFCC. Mr. Nominee, where I come from, the tortoise is reputed to be a very wise animal. So towards the end of the life of the tortoise called 3 of his children, and then put a particular question to them. To the first one, he asked, how many times will something happen to you and you learn? So the first said 3 times. After the first, second, and third one, he will learn from his mistakes. So he asked the second one how many times. The second one replied that after 2 times, he will learn from his mistakes. Then he asked the last one. Last one paused and said, I will not allow anything to happen to me. I will learn from the mistake of others. You're not going to be the first chairman of EFCC. You know the circumstances others came. You know how they managed their affairs. You know how they ended. You know that they came out of the EFCC and became like ordinary citizens. And of course, you know that at the end of their life, they will meet their creator to account for their actions. So I'm going to advise you to rather learn from those mistakes, those ones made, because ultimately their tenure will end. And then you'll be like any of us. And you also meet your creator at the end of your stay here. So I'd like to advise you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Dr. Gabriel Suswam, Benue Northeast.
Abdulrasheed Bawa,
Yes.
I've looked at your CV, I've listened to you. From your CV and articulation, you are eminently qualified for the position for which you are nominated for. I'm also happy that in your presentation, you make reference copiously to the extant laws that set EFCC up and others. And so I assume that you are very conversant with the provisions of the EFCC Act. My question is on Section 2(1)(a) sub 2 of the EFCC Act, which stipulates for qualification outside of academic qualification. Abdulrasheed, within the context and the definition of that section, are you qualified to be appointed as EFCC chairman? Mr. President, it's a straightforward question.
Thank you, Mr. President, and my dear colleagues. While I've subscribed to all the good things that were said about the nominee and his family background, which I know very well because they worked in the former Sokoto before it was created, so I can say much more about what the nominee is really, what his background should be. The nominee, questions were asked which were a little bit general. Let me ask a very small question as to part of the general question that was asked as to your effort to reposition the EFCC when eventually confirmed and took over. In doing so, do you intend to return all the police officers there, or do you want to retain them in service? Thank you.
I'm Mohamed Ali Ndume, representing Borno South. Congratulations, Abdulrasheed, for your nomination.
Thank you very much.
But you know the task before you.
Yes.
It's a big one. First of all, I will assume, and I think you know what UWO means. Unexplained wealth order.
Yes.
And you know what Unexplained Wealth Act is. And you know, as an international investigator, especially as it relates to money laundering, asking you to be the executive chairman of EFCC in Nigeria and to succeed without the unexplained wealth order is like asking you to do the impossible. Are you going to push for the Unexplained Wealth Act and order that is very basic and necessary in fighting money laundering and financial crimes? In answering my question, you may wish to highlight on what that term means. As it is, Nigeria is one of the only countries around, that has not invoked the Unexplained Wealth Act or order. And without that, the fight against financial crime, money laundering, will just be a scratch on the surface.
I represent the Central Senatorial District. Mr. Nominee, I just want to join the rest of my colleagues in identifying with the fact that per adventure, this Senate confirms your appointment. This would have raised a lot of hope with respect to the expectations of Nigerians from not just you, but the youth population. And as one of parliamentarians who also can safely describe themselves as products of the struggle of Nigerian youth, I want to say that I'll be one of the people who have such expectation. And you made one point here which actually struck me. You drew a line of demarcation between fighting corruption and fighting corrupt people. For me, that's very profound, that's very fundamental, and it speaks to the whole essence of our anti-graft crusade. In other words, it is my own expectation. It is my expectation that under your leadership, the EFCC, while trying to catch up with corrupt people, will do everything possible to ensure that as an institution, it continues to emphasize on the need for government to address those fundamentals that will continue to enhance corruption. And finally, how, as the chairman, would you ensure that it is not just, the Yahoo boys who are prosecuted? How will you ensure that convictions are also secured with respect to the high-profile cases? Thank you. And Chief Whip, I appreciate.
Nominee, Malam Bawa.
Yes.
Seeing you here today gladdens my heart. And I want to thank Mr. President for showing it to the rest of the youth in Nigeria that the youth too have a place at the table. You're coming here today. I don't have any question for you. What you've shown us is diligence, perseverance, hard work, which are all the requirements to get to the top. But I want to just give you a little motherly advice. Because one, this is an appointment. The shoes you are going to be filling is a big shoe. Temptations will come. People who are not even your age, they fall in. But I'm just going to, I believe that's your wife there.
Yes.
Pray for your husband very well. I'll pray for you too.
Thank you very much.
Because we want to see a lot of youth like you showing the other youths around Nigeria that if you want to get to the top, you don't have to be destructive. We want to dialogue. I'm 60 years old now. I'm working so that other people like you can get to and fix the Nigeria that we are going to hand over to you. So I'm glad you've spoken, and I expect you to walk the talk. God bless you.
Thank you very
Mr.
much.
President.
Thank you very much.
Colleagues, let me join earlier speakers in the accolades already given to this young man, in whom I know most youth in Nigeria today will be well pleased. I congratulate you and also congratulate Mr. President for putting you before us to lead his fight and our fight against corruption. Mr. Nominee, let me also remind you that you today, standing before us, represent two critical clusters in our society. The most important, which is your primary cluster of course 1 of Cadet Course EFCC 2005, which you today spearhead as the leader, and we hope that your reign shall be a vindication of our position that rooted in EFCC are young men trained to take over from the managers that have managed EFCC this year. So we hope at the end of it all, you'll make us all proud. And also the second cluster that you represent are the youth that will be looking out for you and making sure that you succeed. What I would want to ask, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the nominee, is how he intends to do an internal self-cleansing of the organization going forward. Because it is important that that is stressed, and you must be able to cleanse yourself and the organization to be able to fight this corruption that we are all faced with. Thank you, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, the Chair, very distinguished colleagues. I am Senator Abdulrasheed Adamu, and I represent Nasarawa West District. May I start by congratulating the nominee, Abdulrasheed Bawa, for this honor that the nomination has done you. And the nomination, through your introduction here, have brought some coloring of Kebbi as a state. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I want to start by commenting you from the introduction of your person, your understanding of the subject matter of the organization that you are now going to serve as Chief Executive Officer, Chairman, the EFCC. And in doing so, I want to congratulate the organization itself for producing people like you, their own product. You can, in the parlance of a politician, you are an indigene of EFCC. And I commend the organization for producing officers like you. I am very sure that you are aware that fighting corruption is one of the cardinal points in the manifesto of this administration. And you are also probably aware that in this National Assembly, the 9th National Assembly, sorry, this nice one, we passed a bill on not too young to run. Maybe we will extend to say not too young to stamp out corruption from this country. Having served for 16 years, I want you to kindly search and go through your memories and share with this hallowed chamber what you think, your opinion, and from your personal experience, you will say you have identified as one singular issue that the organization of the EFCC has not been able to overcome probably and properly, so as to be able to deliver fully on this mandate. What do you see as that single issue that remains a problem for the EFCC, that you will take as a personal challenge as the new Chief Executive Officer and you trust yourself? If there's such an issue, can you share with us, please?
From the Cross-Metropolitan State, representing Lagos West Senatorial District. Mr. President, distinguished colleague, let me join others in commending Mr. President for this wonderful nominee he has sent to the Senate. At least we can see a paradigm shift, a generational shift, that is, the young are actually taking over. And also let me commend the nominee for the reassurances he has given to Nigerian youth by this appointment. But my question will be this. Mr. Nominee, there have been issues about the EFCC recoveries in terms of fund and properties, where amount recovered is different from amount remitted to the government coffers. has been an issue that has been in the front burner from time to time. I want you to tell this distinguished Senate what you will be doing differently to ensure that what is recovered by EFCC in terms of funding, in terms of cash, actually reflect what is remitted into the government coffers. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Adamu Muhammad Bukachua, representing Bauchi North Senatorial District. My question is only one and simple. I want to congratulate the young man for being so nominated by the President. And in fact, I also want to extend that congratulations to Mr. President for nominating Abdulrasheed Bawa to head the EFCC. Abdulrasheed, sorry. You see, in the 8th Senate, attempts have been made, but because of some issues, I think, of either personal interest or some other political issues, the attempt for Mr. President to appoint a chairman has failed. Now, there are issues, Mr. Nominee, that are either vague or misunderstood by some of us here, and indeed the general public. These issues are, although my distinguished brother Yai has touched on some of them, the issues you have mentioned in your CV, that you headed investigations from the former Minister of Petroleum to other companies, and according to your CV, you have recovered so many properties here in Nigeria and indeed abroad. Now, I think you have the opportunity now to educate us or to tell us what usually happens in accordance with the EFCC laws. What happens to such properties after you have ceded them to government and you have gotten your convictions in the court and you have recovered these monies in accordance with the EFCC laws? What happened to them from that point? Because Nigerians always wonder, and it's a point of contention. Everybody was saying his mind or his thought or his ideas about what happened to them. Please explain to us and Nigerians. Thank you.
My name is Muhammad Sani Musa, representing Niger East Senatorial District. I would like to congratulate Mr. President by taking the bull by the horns for appointing this young man among all the qualified candidates to the office of the Executive Chairman of the EFCC. Mr. President, have seen your energy, have seen your audacity, he has seen your youthfulness, and he has seen your courage, not only to translate as chairman of EFCC, but as a representative of Nigeria and Nigerians internationally, because crime is international. Mr. Chairman, you have a challenge. I'm not going to pour any encomiums on you, Mr. Nominee. If by the time we confirm you as chairman, the world will look up to you. Nigerians' expectations will look on you. Crime today has turned to insecurity in Nigeria. Illicit of crime have been fueling insecurity in this country. As chairman of EFCC, you have enormous responsibility to work together with all other agencies, as you mentioned earlier, and to look also how your predecessors have occupied that office and how they have discharged their responsibilities. I will wish you well, and after some times I will want this Harlot Chamber to also have the opportunity to invite you to give us an update of what you have been able to achieve, because you are a representative of a generation now. We want to see a change. We want to see transformation. And I will pray to Allah to guide you. But I have a question. What is the relationship you have with your predecessor, who has been in acting capacity? And were you ever arrested by the same acting chairman? And what is the reason for the arrest? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. President, I am Mohammed Njima Goje, representing Gombe, Central Gombe State. Mr. Nominee, I would like to join my colleagues in congratulating you. Looking at your CV and giving your eloquent presentation so far, and given the fact that you have been in FCC for the last 16 years, there is this notion, wrong or right, that EFCC is used as a tool to witch hunt some people for political and other reasons. Many people have been victims of this type of acts of EFCs, whereby people are already charged and tried in the media, their names spoiled, eventually they have been found not wanting. And the allegations that politicians and other interest groups use EFCC not necessarily to fight corruption, but to fight some political and other economic causes. Given your age, as a young man, 40 years, and given the fact that you have never held any top management or political office, how do you intend to withstand pressure, which will certainly come, to use you to witch hunt some perceived enemies? Thank you.
Distinguished colleagues, my name is Abba Moro. I represent the very good people of the Benue South Senatorial District. Mr. President, as a teacher, I can attest to the eloquence and the power of articulation of Mr. Bawa. Yet, there are a few issues that have been trending in the public domain in recent times with respect to EFCC that requires some clarifications, and of course, to which your answer may be a benchmark even for yourself as you journey on and you leave office, be able to say if you have done well. And one of such issues, Mr. Bawa, is the issue of asset forfeiture, management and disposal. When confirmed as chairman, how do you intend to navigate and tackle this thorny issue in order that the EFCC does not run into trouble with the public? Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, my colleagues, Aisha Ahmed Binani, representing Adama Central. Mr. Abdulrasheed Bawa, congratulations for your nomination.
Thank you very much.
Importantly, you are someone who is a well-trained operative from inside the organization. Mr. President, my distinguished colleague, for long this country has been clamoring for generational shift in governance, that is, involving the youth in governance. And this is one nomination that is most welcome in that direction. And I'm sure with the experience of the nominee from the organization right from the inception to date, we will see vibrancy and commitment in the fight against corruption. Before I round up, I would like to use this opportunity to say a very big thank you to Mr. President for listening to the cry of the youth. And I'm sure Mr. Abdulrasheed Bawa, being the representative of my generation, will do us proud and the country will not be disappointed in any way. Having said that, I will still want to just touch a little from what Senator Goje said. Mr. Bawa, what will you do differently with regards to media? Because right from the inception of that organization, some chairmen are only interested in media trial and showmanship. So much that some were hunting perceived critics in government. So as the representative of my generation, which I believe you will do us proud, you will not disappoint this country, that much I believe. What can you do differently? Once more, congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Senator Sam Ewu, I represent Ebonyi North. Mr. Nominee, congratulations.
Thank you.
I want to make firstly, a minor observation, and then my one question. Mr. Nominee, go to page 5 of your CV. Page 5 of your CV. You did certificate in microcomputer operations and management, University of Lagos, 1997. And at the same year, the same 1997, you did your secondary school certificate, government secondary school, Owerri, in the same 1997. It's not possible. So, possibly a typographical error. Then, my main question. You were opportune to be trained overseas. FBI of US and other sister organizations in UK and other countries. Now in Nigeria, what are those things that are in our laws or are not in our laws that have limited this operation, this successful operation of fighting crime, financial crime in Nigeria? Because you may have your very good intention, but you can't operate outside the law like you quoted. What are those things that if it is implemented here, we can now measure like international similar organizations? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Senator Chukwuko Thursday. I represent the good people of Enugu North Central District of Enugu State. Mr. President, I want, in making my contribution, first of all, as the former chairman of Senate Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes in the 8th Assembly, I want to thank Mr. President for finding a round peg for the round hole in the selection and nomination of Mr. Bawa Abdulrasheed as a nominee for the chairmanship position of EFCC. Having said that, Mr. President, having thanked Mr. President for this, I want to say that let me come with my advice first before I round up, Mr. President. My advice for Mr. Nominee is, you know that the EFCC Establishment Act 2004 is an outcome of United Nations Convention Against Crime, 2002, which Nigeria is a signatory. And it revolved around the 5 thematic areas. One is prevention of corruption, prevention. The other issue is training. The other issue is criminalization and law enforcement. The other issue, number 3, is the international cooperation. Number 4, asset recovery. And 5, technical assistance. With all those issues, I want to advise you that you have to face, if you are confirmed, please, prevention is very, very important. EFCC should concentrate with prevention, not just prosecution. It is very important that we reduce even the crime that comes for investigation by EFCC. Then the other issue is training. I want to advise, having worked with you with EFCC for 4 years, about training of cadets. We have an academy established for EFCC, but in recent times, the last trainings you had in the past 2 years, you did it at NDA in Kaduna. I protested against it because we have enough things to do in the academy instead of taking people to that place. You are not training your cadets to become military officers. You are training to be intelligence officers to manage, to see how they can handle the issues of corruption, fight against corruption. The other one is the asset recovery. We have a mutual legal assistance in the Criminal Matters Act, which we passed in the last assembly. I want to advise that instead of taking MOUs, we resort to this law. If we do resort to this law, the embarrassment we have at international levels, where they write very funny MOUs in terms of releasing money to Nigeria to manage, will be a thing of the past. And then the other advice I want to give is that the asset management agency should be in place. The process of crime bill was passed by the last assembly. It wasn't signed, but it's coming back. I will ask you to believe and support that bill when it is passed, that asset management agency should handle every forfeited and the recovered assets so that it can be managed profitably and you stay out of trouble of auctioning articles and people raising eyebrows. Having said that, I want to say, Mr. President, okay, sorry. Sponsored in our 8th assembly, I can testify to the qualification of Mr. Bawa. Yes, I'm just advised. I'm running up, sir. I want to say that he is qualified. I've gone with him international communities, attending functions, and I've seen him confirm that has been done today. Having said that, Mr. President, I want to say that having listened to Mr. Bawa answer all the questions creditably very well here, that after answering these questions already raised, that he just take a bow and go, and then we consent. And this is what I'm saying, sir. It's a good job.
We have been on for the last 2 hours, and I still have 13 senators who have 14 actually who have signified interest to speak. Is it the opinion of the Senate that this nominee, having responded to the questions and comments made by distinguished colleagues, about 18, I think 19 distinguished colleagues' questions and comments were responded to by the nominee. Is it the opinion of the Senate that he takes a bow? Is it? Okay, let me appeal to our colleagues who are not able to speak. Initially, I said everyone who wanted to speak will speak, but there is a limit to how much time we can sit here, and he has been standing there, probably because he's a young man, he has withstood this thing. So I want to appeal to our colleagues, those that have not been able to speak, please to give us their understanding. So once again, is it the view of the Senate that he takes a bow and go? Take a bow. thank everyone for having gone through this very successful session so far. And once again, I want to appeal to our colleagues who could not speak that time has constrained us from recognizing and giving time. So, will the Senate approve the nomination of Abdulrasheed Bawa as the chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate. In the committee of the whole, considered the request of Mr. President CNC for the confirmation of a nominee for appointment as chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. The nominee answered questions from distinguished senators on economic and financial crime matters and a number of topical issues thereafter. The committee approved the nomination of Abdulrasheed Bawa as chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the committee of the whole? Thank you. Confirmation. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Abdulrasheed Bawa as chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Abdulrasheed Bawa is hereby confirmed as chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Congratulations. Thank you very much, distinguished colleagues. Leader of the Senate.